want to kind of talk about some of the tech a little bit. So essentially, I mean, because yeah, obviously it's still very much a work in progress, and a lot of the work is kind of unseen, because it relies on a back end and there's frameworks in play. And so probably the biggest part of kind of moving towards a more modern architecture is relying on a framework called Orleans, which is a cross-platform framework for building distributed applications. And really what it does is it kind of solves a lot of the problems that typically come with scaling for you just from the outset. And then another one is called Blazor, which is a front-end framework for UIs that allows your code base to kind of stay within the same stack because it's all C#. And it also manages the entire UI on the server side. So you really shouldn't have performance issues that are related to the user's computer. It would be related to your backend. So if you have issues, you're either changing the system that's running your servers to have more power, or you're going to be, just trying to make your code more efficient. And essentially, what the architecture kind of ends up looking is very, very simple. In that you've got, obviously the user is going to be connecting up and only seeing the UI. The UI is going to be connecting with all these different systems running this Orleans framework, and they all kind of run together as a cluster. Starting out, you would only run one, which is perfectly fine. It's able to run quite a few users off of just one. But whenever you need to scale, you just add more systems. They organize themselves and are able to run kind of all the different operations that you would find. And it kind of takes over what you would see in a microservices architecture, where you have a bunch of separate problems that are all solved by their independent services. Well, in this case, instead of having independent services that you have to route to, you're going to be just writing separate pieces of code that get executed within Orleans. All right, so enough about the actual coding side, unless y'all have any questions about any of that.
Nope, not right now.
Sure. So now, as far as the demo is concerned, we have our kind of basic login screen and registration page, which you fill in all your data, and you'd essentially verify your email and phone number. But I've already done that for an account. So I'm just going to log in with that account. All right. So we've logged in, and we're immediately given to our patient view. And, initially, I kind of foresaw just kind of 5 different routes that you would go to. You'd have kind of your organization, which is that's where you'd manage your licenses. That's where you'd manage other members that are in your organization. And as you develop features, you'd probably have different roles and different permissions and things, and that's where you might adjust that. That's definitely not built right now, but it is something that you'd need before launch. You've got your patients list here, which you'd be able to search very quickly for. You'd be able to add new patients. Right now, I have one just here as a test, and hopefully you have some accelerators over here on the right that would allow you to quickly schedule with respect to this patient, or delete the patient, edit the patient, just kind of basic operations like that. You got your scheduling page, which we have views for. As far as you'd have your monthly calendar up here, which would probably give users a quick view of how many appointments are on a given day, maybe how blocked off a certain day is. You'd have your filters. This schedule button is just a button for now. The scheduling.
How would you click on the calendar to schedule an appointment for that date?
So you definitely could, yes. I would also say that, like, this calendar down here, you'd be able to click if you wanted a specific time. So really, I feel like a lot of the different clicks here would open up the same kind of schedule menu, just with more or less data filled in. So if you're looking at this day view here, you want to schedule at 10:30, you just click there and it would autofill. with the day and the time. And then you can adjust, if you need to quickly jump around. And then you've also got a week view if you kind of want to compare what's going on certain days. And this screen is a little small, so it looks like we do have a scroll bar here. But yeah, hopefully whoever's scheduling on a week view would have a big enough to display that there wouldn't be a scroll bar. Oh, another aspect of this is that kind of building with that mobile first mentality is very important, just because it's so ubiquitous that everything should be able to kind of collapse down in a nice enough way. You should be able to get rid of certain menus, we're in the week view. Yeah, you should be able to get rid of certain menus just to make things as simple as you can for a phone user. So you'll see a lot of the views are pretty simple, just to keep that kind of mobile first design paradigm going.
Yep.
Okay. Next, moving on, we have our lobby. That is not implemented yet. And then we have the instant meeting link, which this is going to jump us just directly. It's going to essentially start a meeting and start a room for us, which I'm interested to see what happens when I'm already in another meeting. But okay, so right now we're waiting on meeting participants. And we've got this little button here where essentially the room is not started yet. You'll notice there's no video anywhere here. But if I was to invite someone else, I'm going to invite another computer over here.
Paul, what would be your estimate on a version 1 for this? Like, how far away are you?
So the thing is we need, I'd really like to pass this through some kind of design phase and kind of a full summary of what the expected features are, because I feel like that's something that hasn't really been done for the old HIPAA video. I feel like we kind of got to a point where we said, okay, there's some things that the original tech team, had problems with, and they thought large pieces of it should be rewritten, but also, has the market changed, and what do we need to adapt as far as the design goes?
Well, I know what we learned from our data is we need instant meetings, we need payments, and there's a few other features, Craig, which I don't recall right now that you may recall. But those two things for sure, payments and instant meetings, that we know. But again, you'd have to develop a product roadmap, et cetera, et cetera. That's why I'm asking, if you had to guess, how far away do you think you are from a version 1? 1 year, 6 months? Do you have a guesstimate?
I mean, I would think it's definitely on the order of months.
Well, so Paul, we were thinking, is this correct, Paul? We were thinking 45 days to where there's something that the existing HIPAA video users could be transitioned to. Is that correct?
I think if we're going for a direct kind of, I don't want to say copy, but a very direct lookalike with the same features, I could see that being possible, but I definitely would have concerns as far as the testing goes.
Well, you have to test it. It takes time. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, where I sit right now, I can say this is going to take at least 6 months, which is fine. I'm just looking for the answer. It's not necessarily a bad answer. It's not a right or a wrong answer.
I could definitely see it taking 6 months. Yes.
Yeah, me too. And maybe a year, but that's okay. I mean, I like what you're building. It's simple. It's easy to use. It has instant meetings. I like it. I like the thought process that went into it so far. So I'll say that. But go ahead.
Yeah, and I mean that's I guess one of my concerns is that it has been pretty much solely designed by me in kind of, I don't want to say a vacuum, but
Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
Designers, everything. Okay, so I got that other computer joined up, and then I can also invite. Oh, and you're not seeing output on that other computer just because it does not have a camera. It's using a virtual camera. And then I could also invite a phone user. And each of these invites generates a unique link. So there's no way, like, I mean, somebody could copy the link and obviously join the meeting, but they really shouldn't have access to it in any way. And guessing it could be extremely difficult because these links are huge.
Are the links? Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Craig.
So for the video backend right now, we're using Twilio.
Yep. Okay.
All right. So now I'm joining our phone.
Are the links? Do they expire? Because according to the advice that we got, the link should expire at some point. Is that how you plan on setting this up? I mean, of course.
You would want them to expire, yes.
Yeah.
You would want them to expire probably within some duration, after the meeting.
Okay. Good.
Something like that.
Good. Good.
So now I'm going to write phone and then join. All right, and there's the phone in as well. All right. And you've just got your basic control to like turn off cameras if you want, whatnot. And we would add, screen sharing. You'd want to have most of the kind of normal features and open up patient notes and whatnot. So I mean, I think a lot of what's done is just preparing kind of the base tech for this. And the framework for doing all kinds of other operations. And then the basic views that you've seen so far.
Yep. How much time would you say you put into this in hours? Just curious, like.
I mean, I've been grinding for probably since mid-September.
Okay.
But I don't. Yeah. So I mean.
And previous to that, he was working on other projects that were looking like they were coming together.
Yeah, I remember your updates.
Yeah. So
this is as far as just the views that you've seen so far. The whole base was kind of being developed right as soon as I began, and a lot of the base code was able to be transitioned from other projects, and I was able to keep expanding it.
Okay. Can you take me back to the scaling one more time and explain that again? Why this is easy to scale?
So it's easy to scale because the operations are just exist as okay. So
in other words, they're open source laid on top of open source. Is that what you're saying?
Well, okay. So there's this framework, this Orleans framework, right?
Right.
Within it, you specify operations that you want to happen. So just like workflows in code, right? And Orleans is responsible for saying, okay, this is where this code is running at any given point in time. And it's able to synchronize that across a cluster of systems. So if you have, so you can.
So if I could add just as kind of a layman, Vito, so Orleans, tell me if this is correct, Paul, it really has kind of an inherent architecture within it that makes Paul's work a lot more efficient and scalable just within this framework. In past architectures, all of that had to be created. Now, Paul's done a lot of kind of architecture setup in the cloud and whatnot to get where now he can be more efficient. But would that be correct? I'm just trying to make it a little clearer.
No, I understand what Paul's saying, but I'm just curious exactly what's involved in scaling. That's what I understand how Orleans works. I don't understand. I really don't understand the scaling part, I guess.
Okay, so the scaling part is this, right? You have a system that is handling just a small set of users, right?
Right.
And if that set of users balloons, essentially all the users are using the backend for is these different workflows that you've written out, right? Well, if you just add systems into the Orleans cluster and you say, all right, Orleans, instead of one system, now you have 5. Orleans is going to load balance across those 5 systems automatically and go, okay, this workflow is going to execute on this system.
I see. Okay.
So on and so forth, round robin, however it's going to do it. And it's very efficient at doing this load balancing. And since each of these operations, they really should be kind of small, you're able to efficiently just pipeline all these operations through to all these different systems. And you're able to build very big clusters of systems. So, I mean, I've heard estimates as big as 1,000 systems capable. which I mean, you're talking about lots of users there.
Millions of users, yeah.
Yeah.
What's the downside of using this methodology to build this? Is there a downside? What are you giving up?
What are you giving up? So I feel like I have not necessarily seen. Okay, I guess one downside would be there is a little bit of a learning curve at the very beginning as far as setting it up goes. Some of the documentation is a little hard to digest at first, but after you get it set up, it's really not that complicated. Other than that, I mean, the thing is most projects end up evolving into this idea of clustering. If you want to get to a certain point, another thing that projects often evolve towards that can be a real time sink is messaging, and by that I mean having a backend server tell a front end server that something has changed, or you need to update, or something along those lines. And Orleans has that message queue system built in, so that messages will get, once again, load balanced across, will get sent to the proper users who are subscribing to it. And I mean, pub sub can be something that a lot of applications move to, and certain frameworks and certain applications can make that very difficult to do correctly or efficiently.
Gotcha. Okay. Craig, you have any questions? This is good stuff. I like the approach. I think it's a good approach. I do. So what else do you want to add, Craig Gilmore?
Yeah, so this, as we talked about on Sunday, the concept was to get this to where, the existing HIPAA video users could be moved across, with the one-click functionality. I've actually been, in between all my biz dev and all that strategic.
Craig, let me interject one thing. I hate to cut you off. I love you to death. You're a very smart guy, but we've been doing software development now for 6 or 7 years. I'm telling you, you're 12 months away before you're going to add use. I think he's moving in exactly the right direction. Makes a lot of sense to me. I love the infrastructure for this, but I think it's going to take a lot longer than you expect. That's all I'll tell you, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not suggesting there's a problem with that, other than with the investor group, because they're not going to understand this. They're not going to care enough. So that's the issue that we're going to have, is convincing them that, we're not going to do anything as it relates. Now, the other option might be, and I'd like to have Paul's opinion on this too. We have some ideas of how to quickly change HIPAA video and make it viable. So what about the thought of going out while Paul's working on this on the side, and hopefully also collaborating a little bit with our guys, and at the same time making the changes to HIPAA video that we need right now to continue to aggregate customers. And then I can make an argument, look, we really like Gilmore because he's a really smart business guy. We love Paul because he's brilliant. We want to keep them, but at the same time, we understand your concerns. So just tell them the truth and say, essentially, our idea is we're going to continue to try to aggregate customers within HIPAA video. And then when the new application is ready, I forget what you're calling it, then switch everyone over. And quite frankly, that's going to be 8 to 12 months from now is my guess. So that, I think, might be a pathway that's sellable, maybe. But that, to just tell everyone, I mean, let's face it, this is going to take some time. I think Paul's a really brilliant guy, no question about it. I think he's on the right track. But I know how these things work. I've been involved in software development. It's going to take time. Then it needs to be tested. There's going to be bugs that have to be worked through. It's just part of software development, I've learned. So that's my concern. And not that it's a concern, but I think if we're going to sell it to the investors, it has to make sense. I can't just tell them, we have this great thing and let me show it to you. They don't want to see great things anymore. They want to see sales. That's what it comes down to. And that's not necessarily your fault. It's just the way it is right now. And we are getting traction with PVM and also with Unity right now. So everybody's like, well, it looks like HIPAA video is a failure. Maybe we should just scrap the whole thing.
Sure.
And that's what I'm dealing with.
Got it.
As honest as I can put it to you. But I think Paul's definitely moving in the right direction. No question about it.
And you guys had, kind of brought this concept up on Sunday. You guys feel as though, I guess Michael and Bijal and his team can get these things fixed, because Paul and
I think they can. I mean, it wouldn't hurt to have some input from Paul as well occasionally. I know he's going to focus on MVP, but if he'd like to collaborate a bit here and there, maybe have a call with them once a month or once every 2 weeks, just to see what everybody's working on. We can all kind of share ideas, because remember, our guys do have some experience with this as well.
Sure.
The different methodology. It's built on AES. It's a whole different platform. But nonetheless, I think they may be able to help each other as well. But yeah, I think that's the best approach, maybe, if I can sell it that way. So that would be what do you think, Craig Waldrop?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But
Sure.
yeah, and Paul, I want Paul's, since he's a developer. What's your opinion on getting? I mean, our guys, as far as it now, we have an instant meeting is something that we put off a bit, right, Craig? But we're talking. What are the major features we're talking about adding right now to HIPAA video? Remind me. Right, that's very important. Obviously, yeah. Payment, right? Those are the two.
I did a really brief survey among those 70 users that it looks like, the non-patient users.
Yeah. Yep.
And the kind of consistent negative feedback.
Right.
Instant meeting. I put in some other things that, none of us have ever talked about, but from looking at other things, because a lot of them are sole practitioners, having an easy website or something, but that's certainly future. But the biggest kind of negative feedback was it seems like, I guess it needs to be restarted and it times out, with some regularity. So that's definitely got to be figured out. But yeah, I think also, the payment and the number one thing is the link. And one person, the reason they wanted the link is so they could use their own email. I guess they're having losing a lot of system emails and going into spam.
That's just an industry-wide problem. A lot of times the emails go into spam, and there's different ways to mitigate that, which we've done most of everything we can do. So most people, it's no longer a huge problem, but it's still a problem with some users.
Got it.
But I wanted to get Paul's opinion on the development side as to making the fixes to HIPAA video and what he thinks the viability of that is. Paul, what do you think? So, knowing the infrastructure of HIPAA video and what it's built on.
The team that built it knows it the best, and whenever I would question them about new features or what it would take to add certain fixes, I seem to just get the same response a lot, and that was the product needs to be rewritten, or that the product needs to have a lot of time sunk into it to fix technical debt or to find out what's happening. And I mean, this is that a lot of that was straight from Michael's mouth. So that really, impacts my decision for.
Yeah, I think overall that'd be the best approach. But my question is, if we decide to do what we're discussing now, which is fix it a bit enough where, customers want to use it and it's competitive, adding a couple of these features, what would that take? And do you think it's going to be viable and stable once we do that? I mean, I don't think you know enough about, I don't think you've gone in and actually looked at the code in any great detail, but just on the surface, what you think of that?
So, I mean, it could take considerable time, and I think there needs to be just a look at what's actually there. Like, there were a lot of features that Bajal told me, like, oh yeah, we were told this was written, and then they'd go look for it and they couldn't find the code, or they couldn't.
Okay.
They didn't know. So
maybe we should do an exploratory call where you can ask all the questions again, see if we can get you the information, and decide if we think. Because if we don't all agree, then we're wasting our time. If we don't think that we can get this product up and running and aggregate some more customers in the meantime, then we have to think about a different strategy.
But Paul, so I appreciate your responding to Vito's question, but if I'm hearing some other things you said, it sounds like really Michael and Bajal can better answer that question.
That's what I'm saying.
Right? Yeah.
Oh. I mean,
I'm not sure.
Well, we've already had these discussions with them. I just wanted to get Paul's take on it.
Sure.
They're telling us in a couple of months they can add payments and a couple of other small features. Plus, we implemented a bunch of stuff before we handed it to you, which we never tested because then we kind of put it in sleep mode. So there's a couple of things that have been added already. But my suggestion would be that we have a group discussion with those guys Paul can ask all his questions. They can answer them how they see fit. And then we can kind of, reconvene and decide what we think. In other words, are you guys on board with trying to fix HIPAA video temporarily so that we can aggregate some more customers to keep the shareholders happy while Paul continues to build MVP until it's ready, which is probably 12 months from now, if we're going to be honest about it. So that's my suggestion. I think that might be the best way to move forward. And once we decide, yes, we can do this and we're all on the same page, then I can go back to the investor group and try to sell it to them. So that's my thinking. What do you think, Craig Waldrop? Yeah, I think that's our best angle. Because if we just go back and say, look, HIPAA video didn't work, it's a mess, we have to rebuild it, and it's going to take a year, they're going to say just the other divisions are taken off, scrap it, take the money, and dedicate it to the other divisions. That's what I've already kind of been told. But I think I can sell this if we're all on the same page. And actually, I want to pursue this because I think there's a lot of opportunity here. I really do. So that's my take on it. What do you think, Craig Gilmore?
Yeah, I think so. I think that fundamental question, Michael and Bajal are really the ones that have to answer that. Part of our Paul and my negativity was some of the feedback we got from them. So I don't know if now maybe they've had some space or maybe they've done some work. I can't speak to any of that, but I think that's in their that's really their determination, because if Paul's going to make progress on a new platform, he can have a call every couple of weeks or month or whatever, but to be honest, and nobody's a bigger fan than Paul's than myself, I'm not sure, other than some really high level concepts, right, how much he's going to be able to help, because he doesn't know the code. And but sure, I mean, if they've got, I don't know,
work both, you'd be surprised, it might work both ways to some extent.
Sure.
It might have some real rare talents as well. So you never know, it might help. But so maybe what we should do is have a call just to developers and let the developers talk amongst themselves about what features we're talking about adding, and then Paul can give us his assessment after he has one more call with Bajal and Mike, and they give him whatever feedback. Because I mean, if we're not all on the same page, then it's probably not going to work. You know what I'm saying? It needs to be a concerted effort. And so that's my thinking. So if you guys are okay with that, let's set up a call as soon as possible with those two, and you can ask all the questions you want, Paul. We'll tell you what we're thinking about doing. And then, we'll get your assessment, and Craig Gilmore, we'll get your assessment as to whether or not you want to run something like this until we get MVP done, and then we can switch everybody over. And at the same time, you can continue to pursue those other initiatives that you're pursuing, which I think are going to be long-term as well, because I know how grant money works.
Sure. Well, a lot of it's not grant related, but I understand what you're saying.
Yeah, some of it is.
But I mean, and Paul, let me ask you, so, I appreciate at kind of multiple levels of Vito estimating, whether it's 8, 9, 12 months or what have you, but I'd like your kind of realistic / conservative and not holding you to this, but you think that 12 months is accurate, or can you say with any level of confidence right now?
I mean, most software projects balloon. I think that's I mean, that's
we've been there.
But it is it is possible to get things working very quickly if you have things defined, if you have the designs down, if you know what you're targeting.
Mm-hmm.
So if everything works perfectly, Paul, including testing, what do you think we're looking at? At least 6 months, I would guess.
I mean, I could see on the order of 3 months, 4 months. I mean, it really depends on what issues come up and what needs to be done. I mean,
and a key issue. Do you guys feel it's been a while since I've seen the UI for HIPAA video? Do you guys feel as though that design is something you're really happy with, or
no, because I'd love to change the design.
Okay. Well, because one aspect that I've just been trying to get focusing on Paul getting refocused, right, given where we are on the timeline. So something that's going to make him more effective and a better product is to get a design, right? So I was curious if you guys already had that, and if not, that's something we can get with your input or what have you. But that's why I was asking the question.
Yep, it's a good question.
So, I mean, that's the thing, is like you can build all these features very, very quickly, especially if you have a very general design and you know exactly what you want. But You don't know how the customer is going to respond to it, and you don't know what's going to.
It's a process.
You're going to want to change. So that iteration is the thing that can really draw it out. So it's like,
and it will. I mean, it almost always happens. But I understand it's good to be. What's the word I'm looking for? It's good to be optimistic, but I'm telling you from experience, we're not going to have a product in less than 6 months based on what I saw. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. Actually, 6 months would be very impressive to me if we can get it done that quickly. And maybe we can. But I think the only way forward is going to be to convince the investor group we're going to go back out there in 30, 45 days. We'll hit the video, aggregate the customers. We're building something much better simultaneously. And then we're going to just keep rolling and switch everyone over and keep going. I think that's the best sell. Mm-hmm. So if we all agree that once we speak to the developers and if we're all on the same page, then I think that's what I'll go back with, and we'll see if we can get it done. That's what I would suggest. Okay. If you have another angle, Craig, that you want me to consider, I'll do it. But yeah, with Clyde and a new platform, right? You said feature. Yeah, you meant platform. I got it. Yep.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, so I think that's the best thing to do. So if it's okay with you, Paul and Craig, let's set up a call, Mike and Bajal, whenever you guys are ready. And, we'll find out. We'll tell you what features we were planning on adding right away and what else is on the roadmap, which is going to be later. But hopefully we won't get that far because MVP will be ready and we can just, switch everyone over. And, because obviously we're not going to invest a bunch of money and hit the video if we're going to transfer everyone over. That'd be silly. But we're talking about a couple of simple features. These guys are on payroll anyway. So it's not really going to cost us a tremendous amount of money to get it done if they're right about their 60 days.
Paul, were you going to say something a minute ago?
Oh, I was just interested to know what exact features.
Yeah, Craig, you want to go through what we've agreed to do if we do it right now and what's on the roadmap for later? Yep.
Right. And
I've heard it's easier to rebuild it the way it is now than to build in. Right. So.
And just for your reference, as part of the payment taking, if you can do automatic billing and, whether it's monthly or annual, right? But, for the consumer, that's really more on our side, but,
right. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. Sure. Understood. Yeah. That's simpler. Correct.
Yep.
And so those guys, their preliminary thoughts are, they think a couple of months they could get it, kind of where you guys were hoping it was. Okay.
Correct me if I'm wrong, Craig. Am I right, Craig?
Yep. Well, I think for fixing tech debt or fixing stability issues.
Well, why don't we? I think those questions you should ask directly of them. So why don't we just set up a call and you can ask all the questions you want, and then we'll reconvene and decide if we're all on the same page or not. Why don't we do it that way, Paul?
Yeah. Yeah. The biggest thing, it seemed pretty clear, was kind of freezing and stalling that required restarts and stuff. So I can go back. I didn't realize at the time I used a free survey version. So I can type some stuff out, but unfortunately I can't download everything and just send it to you. But
what application are you using for surveys, Craig?
That Qualitrix.
Okay.
Which is, I think, pretty much the market leader.
Yep.
So got some interesting feedback for future features, but that's kind of the least of our problems, right now. So.
Yeah. Okay. So why don't we have an open discussion with them, and then you guys can decide if it's viable, because I don't want to pour money into it either if we don't think it can be done.
Sure.
Yeah. So then we'll have to pick a different direction. That's all.
Sounds good.
All right. So how soon do you guys want to put a call together? Next week? This week? It's up to you, really.
Paul, it's really up to you and those guys as far as I'm.
Anytime this week.
Okay, we'll try to set up. Craig, you want to quickly show them what we've done with PVM on a document signing? So just so you know.
I may be traveling maybe Thursday and Friday this week, but So
okay,
what
we
is
can always
today?
do it tomorrow's Wednesday. Let's shoot for tomorrow.
Yeah, so tomorrow, I've got a couple of calls, but tomorrow would generally be better. Tomorrow or early next week.
We'll get you some times for tomorrow. I'd rather get it done sooner than later.
Yep.
And I'm going to have Craig take you quickly through PBM's document signings just to see what you guys think of it. We're about to launch. We have several trials lined up thanks to Bob Hussey, the new CEO of PBM. So, and we also have the patent pending on the document signing because it's inside of a video collaboration platform. So, but Craig will show it to you. Have you guys ever seen a document signing?
I'm not sure if I know I've heard about it. I'm not sure if Craig demoed that, whatever that was several months ago.
I don't even know if it was available yet. So
yeah,
very rudimentary. Yeah, we've done a lot of work on it. So